G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. So today's episode, I'll tell you what, it is proving difficult to get out there, really hard, because as per usual, I am racked with anxiety, especially today. Not entirely sure why or what about, although I have my suspicions. But unfortunately today I am so anxious. I've got the driest mouth in the world. So if I stumble over a few words, that's my excuse, and it's a bloody good one. And it's been a very frustrating morning trying to get this out. So you may remember that I live with my parents, potentially one of the sources of my anxiety, not the parents, the fact that I live with them. Anyway, so you may remember that. So when I record in a room. And then obviously there is the potential to be overheard when people are home. So that's sort of what I've been worried about this morning, this idea that people are listening. It's not even anyone in particular, it's just anybody. Anybody could be listening, which is ridiculous when this is a podcast that gets produced for people to listen to. But anyway, I am well aware of the irony of that fact. But the fact of the matter is that when I'm sitting in this room, I can imagine people, in this case, I suppose my parents, on the other side of the door, listening to what I'm saying, negatively judging me for it, and appraising me in a very bad light because of it. So this is sort of social anxiety 101. When people think of social anxiety, often they think of, quite rightly, that it's more people judging you on your appearance or how you're standing, how you're talking, like in a conversational sort of setting. Or out somewhere in public, whereas this is behind closed doors, but I'm still getting that same anxious response, thinking there's people on the other side of the door listening to my words and negatively judging me as a consequence. So what I've had to do is what I used to have to do, and that is record in the car. I've had to record in the car. I'm doing it again. So you may remember, long-term listeners of the show will remember that when I first started doing the podcast, I used to live in that weird place, that monastery, that halfway house where there were 40 rooms, and I was room number 32. And I used to get really paranoid all the time that people were listening to me through the doors and laughing and having a good old giggle at the state of my life. So often in those early episodes, I used to record in my car to get away from the potential of people listening. So that's exactly what I'm doing here today again. Is this a bit of a regression? Maybe, but at the end of the day, I don't care. I just need to get this episode out there. So like I said, that's been the story. It's been a big feature of the last 2 weeks, this whole anxiety thing. And often, it's hard because I'm always anxious 24/7. I said this to someone again at work the other day. I might have mentioned on the potty recently too. But there's no moment in my life that I can think of where I'm content, calm, and just happy. It just doesn't happen. I'm always on edge. I'm always expecting something is coming around the corner, or I'm always thinking about things that I should be doing that for some reason I don't appear to have the capacity to do. And I think that's been the problem the last fortnight. So today has been much like the other days, this fortnight that have come and gone. Very anxious, don't really want to face the big bad world, and don't want to go to work and talk to people, and it's just been a nightmare. It's been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, and that's why there's been a little bit of a gap between this episode and the last, which of course was all about my first kiss. Now that was a lot more anxiety provoking, the first kiss that is, than doing this episode here today, but still it's the same sort of theme, this anxious anxiety theme. That is, I don't want to say ruining my life, but it's certainly hampering it in a negative way, that is for sure. So the last 2 weeks, very, very anxious. So much so, today I was meant to do some recording for the Every Mind Institute, doing some recording about my thoughts on using lived and living experience in research and in the media, and how we can use this expertise, I suppose, to try and further that aim in the community to lower stigma and all that sort of stuff. So that was meant to be happening today, but I've had to put it off because I'm just too anxious. It was actually meant to happen at the end of last week as well, but I put it off because I was too anxious. And it was meant to happen a few other times in a week or two ago where I was also too anxious and had to blow it off and say, look, I'll do it, but I'm just not in the state of mind to do it. And that, unfortunately, is today as well. So, not good. Not happy about that at all. So what that does is just reaffirms that this anxiety is a big problem. And we know this, but I mean subconsciously and consciously too, This just reaffirms the fact that, yes, Elliot, you do have anxiety disorders, and yes, they do stop you from doing the things you want to be doing, and that is not good. So in that sense, the idea is that, do I have the capacity to complete the things I want to do? No, because the anxiety is too strong. And then by not doing it, the stress goes up because I know I really want to be doing these things and should be doing them. The stress goes up, the anxiety goes up, and then that underlying sort of depression, that negativity comes flooding in because it's like, hey, we're not equipped to be able to do the things that we want to do in this life. And that's something to feel bad about. And that is what the last 2 weeks have been very much about. And a big part of it too is, I think, the fact that unfortunately I'm not getting the sort of job interviews and stuff that I was hoping for. We know that I really need a new job. I need a new challenge. I need something that I'm really engaged with. And I've been putting some resumes out there, and I'll tell you what, my expectation was that I would just fall into a job pretty easily. I thought that, my resume really stacked up against anyone else that potentially I was going up against. But it appears maybe I've been wrong, because I've put in quite a few resumes and I haven't had the sorts of bites, the sorts of responses that I've been hoping for. And again, that is anxiety producing and provoking, because I'm getting stressed because I'm not getting this new job. So I'm still in the job that I'm not enjoying that much, which is taking its toll. I'm still financially not very well off, still living with mum and dad. See what I mean? There's all this undercurrent of worries that have got to do with real life. These are real life problems that are then spurring on the anxiety disorders, but they're rooted, at the moment at least, in the real world. This isn't some fantasy generalized anxiety disorder world. These are real stressful issues that I need to get a handle of, because subconsciously and now consciously it's leaking through. The anxiety is getting worse and worse. And unfortunately, it's a bit like a negative feedback loop, that when the anxiety gets worse, the anxiety gets worse. You know what I mean? And then it opens the door for that depression and the potential for a severe depressive episode to come creeping back in. So I'm a bit stressed at the moment because there's all these things I want to be doing and should be doing. More of these episodes is an example of that. But I just have not had the capacity as of late to be able to do the things I want to be doing. And I don't have an answer for it at the moment. I just do not have an answer. As per usual, as per always, the medications don't quite cut it with the anxiety for me, unfortunately. And the things that I probably should be doing to help the anxiety, those behavioural interventions, the psychological work, I'm really struggling to engage with that because I'm so anxious and I'm not able to sort of overcome that initial anxiety to then get stuck into the things I should be doing. I just go into freeze mode and then nothing gets achieved. And it's very, very disheartening. Anyway, this is my story. This is my life. We know this is sort of how it works, but the last 2 weeks has been particularly bad because I haven't been able to push through and be like, no, I know the anxiety's there. I'm going to compartmentalize. I'm going to put it over there in the corner so I don't have to look at it, the big ugly thing that it is. Then I'm going to get on with my day. Unfortunately, the last fortnight, I haven't had the means to be able to do that. And as a response, as I said, once the anxiety gets kicked up, it sort of brings on more anxiety. Ooh, tough times, everybody, tough times. But hey, this is the reality of living with mental illnesses. This is what it's like every day. This isn't just, I'm a little bit scared today. This is pervasive, and it transcends every level of my being. And I'm fighting this stuff every single day, every moment of the day. It is a battle against anxiety. And unfortunately, over the last fortnight, it has sort of taken control and won the battle. But the war, of course, is not over. It's not all bad news, though. I did get to go to the first Knights game for me of the year, a trial game for those who care about, against the Sydney Roosters. It was a great performance by the team. It was a great win, and I got on TV again with my big Pride of the Hunter banner, which was pretty cool. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out my Instagram at elliot.t.waters. You will see it all there, because I am Newcastle's biggest fan, and it was great to watch the boys have a great win. It's very cathartic going to the football, just sort of yelling at the referee and booing the opposition. I don't know. It makes you feel pretty good, and it really burned a lot of that anxiety that I had leading up to the game, but then unfortunately after it as well, because that's just what's been happening. But the problem is, to get to the game and have a good time, I had to drink quite a bit of alcohol, which I didn't mind so much because it's the football and, it was still in a controlled environment and it was all right. But the problem still persists that I needed to have a couple of schooners of VB, or else I was pretty worried about going into this stadium with all those people and cheering on the Knights. So that is a bit of a concern, but at the same time, I didn't let the anxiety stop me. I had a great time and the Knights played brilliantly. So, pride of the Hunter, baby. Our town, our team. Let's hope the boys keep it going. And the women, of course, the women too, when they kick off, because there is not much stronger antidepressant than the Newcastle Knights winning football games, let me tell you right now. All right, just before I wrap up, some things I want to be doing on the potty moving forward. I just want to put them out there in the ether so I'm held accountable for these things. I'm thinking of starting this thing at like a Q&A, sort of a Friday Q&A sort of session where people write in, I don't know, I chuck on Instagram, or people have messaged me over the years now, different questions and stuff that I'd like to answer. So I'm thinking on maybe a Friday doing sort of a fun sort of Q&A thing, I don't know, and trying to answer some of your questions and really get to the heart of some of the things that you guys are going through as well. I think this is a good way to sort of open up that sort of to and fro communication, because I want this podcast obviously to bring more people on, which it will be soon, but also facilitate, if people have questions and maybe aren't comfortable coming on the show, which is fair enough, but you still might have some burning questions. I'd love to answer them, see if I can make sense of it and make sense of it for you as well. So that's coming. Q&A Fridays, that is coming. Very excited. And the other thing is, I've got some great interviews coming up. The intake interview series is still going, which is awesome. They will be coming soon. I'm going to be doing a raft of recordings soon. I've got a nice list of people. A lot of people have reached out, which is great. If you would like to be interviewed on the intake interview series, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at elliot.t.waters, and we'll kick it off from there. I'll send you an email. There's a little waiver thing you got to sign, and then there's a Google document I send through, which is just sort of a very basic outline of the episode, and we sort of fill in the blanks. We have a talk, have a discussion about what we want to talk about, and then we get stuck into it. So exciting stuff. There's more of that coming as well. So Q&A Fridays, intake interview series, it's all going to be happening very, very soon. I just need to get this anxiety under control so it can free me up to do the things that I really want to be doing, and part of that is really focusing on this podcast. So thank you to everybody who's been listening. I do appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode. Again, if you're enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe, give the show a great 5-star rating if you could. And you can share it around with your mates. And you can, of course, follow me on Instagram at elliot.t.waters. Until next time, I'll see you soon here on the Dysregulated podcast.